Admiral Helena Chen maintained her composure as the Vordaxian delegation filed out of the conference room, their armoured carapaces clicking against the polished floor. Only when the door sealed shut did she allow her shoulders to slump. "Well, that could have gone better," remarked General Santos, removing his service cap to wipe sweat from his brow. Helena stared at the data crystal on the table, its surface catching the light in hypnotic patterns. They weren't here to negotiate. This was reconnaissance disguised as diplomacy. The crystal contained the Vordaxian ultimatum. Earth had 1 galactic standard month to prepare appropriate tribute in resources and territory, or face what they politely termed protective occupation. Translation: surrender or be conquered. Their technology is at least 2 centuries ahead of our most advanced systems, said Dr. Anwar, the xenotechnology specialist. Those ships in orbit could glass our major cities before our missile defense systems even registered a launch. Helena gathered her tablet and stood, maybe by their conventional metrics. But they've made one critical error, which is, General Santos raised an eyebrow. They assessed us by their standards. Helena moved toward the exit. And that means they haven't accounted for how humans fight when cornered. The secure elevator required 3 separate biometric confirmations before descending into the sublevels beneath the New Geneva complex. Helena used the 20-second ride to compose a priority message to the Security Council, requesting emergency powers to activate contingency protocols. Her personal comm unit chimed as she exited into the underground transit station. An encrypted message from a sender identified only as Prometheus Actual. Helena's pulse quickened as she authorized the decryption. The message appeared. Asterisk, they have no idea what we've built. Atacama facility standing by for your arrival. Transport arranged. Bring no staff asterisk. Asterisk, Eli asterisk. Dr. Elijah Wright, her academy roommate. The brilliant mind who disappeared into classified research 5 years ago. The hypersonic shuttle was waiting when she arrived at the diplomatic airfield. No markings, no flight crew, just an autonomous system that verified her identity before sealing her inside. The craft reached the Atacama facility in under 2 hours, screaming across the sky at speeds that would have liquefied conventional aircraft. As the shuttle descended into the hidden valley, Helena caught glimpses of what appeared to be an abandoned mining operation. Only when they dropped below the ridgeline did she see the truth. A sprawling complex of interconnected structures, camouflaged to be invisible from satellite surveillance. The shuttle landed on a pad that immediately began descending underground. Helena stood as the hatch opened, revealing Elijah Wright's familiar face, now thinner and lined with new wrinkles around his eyes. "Welcome to Project Prometheus," he said, extending his hand. "I've been expecting you since we got word of the Vordaxian approach. Eli, what exactly have you been building down here that's worth keeping secret even from me?" Helena asked as they walked through a security checkpoint that scanned them down to the cellular level. Elijah's normally serious face broke into a rare smile. Something the Vordaxians can't possibly anticipate, because it doesn't just rely on technology. He paused at a massive vault door as it slowly swung open. It relies on what makes humans unique in this galaxy. Helena stepped through into a cavernous chamber filled with activity. Scientists monitoring holographic displays, technicians working on equipment unlike anything she'd seen before. In the center hum 5 matte black exoskeletons suspended in glowing nutrient gel. "Is this a weapon?" she asked. Elijah shook his head. "It's much more than that, Helena. It's a partnership." The nutrient gel surrounding the 5 exoskeletons pulsed with a soft blue rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. Admiral Chen approached the nearest unit, studying its sleek design. Unlike the bulky combat suits Earth's military currently deployed, these appeared almost delicate, with an organic quality to their construction. Nano-composite outer shell with reactive memory properties, Elijah explained, running his hand across the surface. It can harden against impacts in milliseconds or flow, like liquid, to enhance mobility. Helena circled the suspended unit. Impressive engineering, but hardly enough to counter Vordaxian battlecruisers. They've conquered 12 systems with technology that makes our best defenses look prehistoric. The hardware isn't what makes Prometheus special. Elijah gestured to a nearby technician who brought over what appeared to be a neural interface crown. This is the breakthrough. Helena took the lightweight device, turning it in her hands. Neural tech. We've been experimenting with direct interfaces for decades. Not like this. Elijah led her to a viewing station where multiple screens displayed brain activity patterns alongside performance metrics. Conventional neural interfaces translate thought into action through programmed responses. Prometheus creates true synchronization. On screen, a test subject's neural patterns pulsed in perfect harmony with the system's computational rhythms. We discovered something remarkable about human brain activity, Elijah continued, his voice quickening with excitement. Our neural patterns contain a randomization element that no eye can perfectly predict. When amplified through the Prometheus system, it creates tactical advantages that even Vordaxian battle computers can't calculate against. A technician approached with a data tablet. Dr. Wright, the final synchronization tests for candidates 3 and 4 just completed. Both achieved 90% coherence. Excellent. Prepare them for full immersion tomorrow. Elijah dismissed the technician before turning back to Helena. We've been searching for compatible candidates for months. Out of thousands screened, only 5 individuals demonstrated the neurological profile needed for complete integration. And these 5 will pilot these units against the Vordaxian fleet? Helena asked, skepticism evident in her voice. Instead of answering directly, Elijah led her to another station. Watch this simulation from last week. The holographic display activated, showing a Prometheus unit facing off against 30 simulated Vordaxian fighter craft. What followed left Helena speechless. The human-piloted unit moved with impossible grace, predicting attack vectors before they formed, exploiting weaknesses that shouldn't have been detectable. The simulation ended with all 30 enemy craft neutralized. That's not possible, Helena whispered. That's the point, Elijah replied. By Vordaxian standards of combat logic, it isn't possible. Their tactical computers can't account for human intuition enhanced by the Prometheus system. Helena watched the simulation replay, noting how the pilot seemed to anticipate attacks before they occurred. There must be drawbacks. Elijah's expression darkened. The neural load is intense. Extended synchronization causes increasing dissociation from normal perception. We don't know the long-term psychological effects yet. How long can they safely operate? Our current estimate is 4 hours before neural strain becomes potentially damaging. We're working to extend that window. Helena turned to face her old friend directly. You've hidden this project even from Earth's central government, haven't you? We had to. There were concerns about weaponizing neural technology, ethical questions about the interface. Elijah's gaze was unwavering. But with the Vordaxians coming, those concerns seem academic now. A security alert chimed softly, and a voice announced over the facility intercom. All section heads to Observation Deck C candidates arriving for final briefing. "Your pilots are here," Elijah said. "Would you like to meet the 5 humans who might just save our species?" Observation decks offered a panoramic view of the arrival platform, where 5 transport shuttles touched down in precise sequence. Admiral Chen stood beside Elijah at the reinforced glass, watching as the candidates emerged. "Tell me about them," she requested, studying the diverse group assembling below. Elijah brought up individual profiles on his tablet. First is Maya Santos, former orbital defense pilot with the highest recorded spatial awareness scores in Earth fleet history. Helena watched the young woman step from the first shuttle, her posture rigid with military discipline despite the civilian clothes. Santos, wasn't she disciplined after the lunar incident? Disobeyed direct orders to protect a civilian transport instead of completing her mission objective, Elijah confirmed. Saved 300 lives but lost her command. Her neural patterns show exceptional adaptability. From the second shuttle emerged a tall man with thoughtful eyes scanning the facility with careful precision. Dr. Tariq Hassan, Elijah continued, theoretical physicist who served in the resource wars. Rare combination of analytical intelligence and combat experience. His brain processes battlefield mathematics at speeds our computers struggle to match. The third arrival moved with silent grace, a slight woman whose watchful eyes missed nothing. Lin Wei, tactical analyst with the Pan-Asian Coalition. Perfect operational record, but struggled with traditional command structures. Psychological profile indicates difficulty with social integration, but her pattern recognition abilities are unprecedented. A broad-shouldered man with military bearing stepped confidently from the 4th shuttle. James Morrison, Special Forces background, specialized in adaptable response scenarios. His neural resilience scores are off the charts. He can maintain calm decision-making under conditions that would break most operators. The final shuttle arrived, and a young woman bounded out, immediately examining the landing pad's mechanical systems with obvious curiosity. Sofia Reyes, 24 years old, and already revolutionized 3 different engineering fields. She sees technology as an extension of human capability rather than a separate tool. Her intuitive understanding of the Prometheus systems exceeded our design teams within hours of her first exposure. Helena studied the 5 individuals as they were greeted by facility staff. "They don't look like humanity's last hope." "That's precisely why they might succeed," Elijah replied. "The Vordaxians expect conventional military responses. These 5 think differently." The group was escorted inside, and Helena followed Elijah to the training center where the candidates were assembling. The atmosphere was tense as they entered, 5 pairs of eyes turning to assess the newcomers. "Admiral Chen will be overseeing the Prometheus deployment," Elijah announced. "She needs to understand what you're capable of." Maya Santos stepped forward. "With respect, Dr. Wright, we've spent weeks learning systems that shouldn't exist yet. We've had our brains scanned, tested, and measured. What exactly are we preparing for?" "Vordaxian invasion force," Helena answered directly. 1-month timeline. Earth's conventional defenses won't hold. The room fell silent as the information registered. "Show me," Helena said to Elijah. 20 minutes later, the 5 candidates were positioned in neural calibration stations, lightweight interfaces placed on their temples. Technicians monitored vital signs as the synchronization began. On the main display, 5 distinct neural patterns pulsed with increasing harmony. Synchronization at 60%. A technician announced. 70, 80, holding stable. Maya's eyes opened suddenly, pupils dilated. "I can feel the system," she whispered. "It's like becoming something more." Candidate Santos showing unusual pattern development. Another technician called out, "Never seen this before." Without warning, Maya's neural pattern shifted into something entirely new. The other 4 candidates' patterns began adjusting, aligning with hers in a synchronized dance. What's happening? Helena demanded as alarms began to sound. Elijah stared at the readings in astonishment. They're harmonizing beyond our projections, creating a linked neural structure we never designed for. On the display, the 5 distinct patterns merged into a complex, beautiful symmetry that pulsed with undeniable power. Full synchronization achieved, the lead technician announced with disbelief. All 5 candidates simultaneously. "That's impossible," Elijah whispered. "The probability calculations." "We're wrong," Maya finished, her voice eerily calm. "Because you calculated like machines think, not how humans do." Sub-Commander Krex observed Earth's orbital defenses through the command ship's visualization sphere. 12 Vordaxian scout vessels had emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, their sleek Predator-class hulls gleaming against the backdrop of the blue planet. "Primitive detection systems," his tactical officer reported with a dismissive click of mandibles. "They've only just registered our presence. Response time inadequate." "Initiate standard contact protocol," Krex ordered, settling his carapace into the command harness. "Let us inform them of their impending incorporation." The communications officer established a broadcast channel. "Channel open, Sub-Commander." Krex recited the familiar words, "Attention Earth leadership. Your evaluation period has concluded. You will now surrender and be incorporated with minimal population reduction. Resistance will result in—" "Sub-Commander," the tactical officer interrupted, unusual in Vordaxian military protocol. 5 small craft approaching from low orbit. Krex's sensory ridges flared with amusement. 5. Display. The visualization sphere shifted, showing 5 matte black vessels accelerating toward the Vordaxian formation. Their design was unlike standard Earth military craft, sleeker, with an almost organic quality to their movement. Ripples of clicking laughter spread through the command deck. They send 5 vessels against 12 superior warships. Krex's mandibles clacked in amusement. Record this encounter for the archive. It will serve as an educational example of primitive species' misunderstanding of tactical reality. The laughter died as the 5 human craft suddenly split into unexpected configurations. Maya's unit separated into 5 synchronized drones that moved with uncanny coordination, while Tarek's craft emitted sensor pulses that somehow penetrated Vordaxian shielding frequencies. "Impossible," the tactical officer hissed. "They're using shield resonance patterns that weren't included in our intelligence briefings." On the visualization sphere, one of the Earth vessels, Lynn's unit, executed a maneuver that defied conventional physics, somehow appearing simultaneously at multiple targeting coordinates. "Deploy standard combat formation," Krex ordered, sensory ridges now rigid with concern. "All vessels, engage with primary weapons." The Vordaxian ships moved to encircle the human craft, energy weapons charging. Their formation was perfect, a dodecahedron of death that had overwhelmed countless planetary defenses. It should have worked. It always worked. On the command deck view screen, Maya's voice came through with startling clarity. Formation recognized. Predictable. Boring. Her unit's drones slipped through gaps in the Vordaxian formation that shouldn't have existed, striking with precision at shield generators and weapon emplacements. Tarek's unit somehow anticipated the Vordaxian targeting algorithms, evading energy beams, before they even fired. Their countering our attack patterns before tactical computes them. The weapons officer reported, mandibles trembling. This defies established combat principles. 2 Vordaxian vessels exploded simultaneously as James' unit delivered precisely calculated strikes to their reactor cores. A third spun out of control as Sophia's craft somehow rewrote its navigational systems remotely. Recalculate approach, Krex demanded, carapace plates clicking with agitation. Implement randomization protocols. But the human vessels seemed to dance through space, moving not with the rigid precision of military craft, but with what appeared to be joy. They fought as if engaged in an elaborate performance, their movements containing patterns that Vordaxian tactical systems couldn't predict or counter. Within 12 minutes, 11 Vordaxian scout ships had been neutralized. Retreat protocol, Krex ordered, his voice now stripped of all confidence. Immediate hyperspace jump. Transmit all combat data to command. As his vessel prepared to flee, Krex studied the recorded movements of the human craft. There was something disturbingly familiar in their unpredictable patterns, something that stirred ancient racial memories. They moved like the thought dancers, his eldest tactical officer whispered, using a term from Vordaxian mythology. The ones who fought with minds instead of weapons. Krex's final report, transmitted as his ship jumped to hyperspace, contained a warning unprecedented in Vordaxian military history. Humans employ unknown integration technology. Combat style suggests intuitive rather than computational tactical generation. Recommend full assessment before main fleet engagement. In the vastness of space beyond Neptune's orbit, 5 Prometheus pilots celebrated their first victory. The celebration in the Prometheus facility's operations center lasted exactly 6 minutes before Dr. Wright called for medical evaluation of all pilots. Admiral Chen watched as the 5 heroes of humanity's first victory were escorted to the medical wing, their expressions a complex mixture of elation and disorientation. They exceeded all projected performance metrics, Elijah explained as they walked alongside the pilots. But I'm concerned about neural strain levels. In the medical bay, the team of specialists began their examinations. Helena observed through the monitoring glass as Maya sat perfectly still, her eyes focused on something no one else could see. Beside her, technicians reviewed brain scans showing unusual activity patterns. "What are we looking at?" Helena asked the lead neurologist. "Unprecedented synaptic reorganization," Dr. Kimura replied, pointing to highlighted areas on the display. "Their brains are physically changing in response to the Prometheus interface." Behind them, Elijah studied the data with growing concern. The system was designed to temporarily enhance neural pathways, not permanently alter them. In the examination room, Maya suddenly began writing complex equations on her medical tablet, her hand moving with machine-like precision. "Those are slipstream calculations for Vordaxian engine configurations," a nearby physicist noted with astonishment. How could she possibly know that? "Ask her about her childhood home," Elijah suggested quietly. Dr. Kimura entered the room and posed the question. Maya paused, her expression confused. "I don't remember." "Is that important for the mission?" In the adjacent rooms, the other pilots showed similarly concerning symptoms. Tarek designed intricate improvements to the Prometheus systems, but couldn't maintain a simple conversation about the weather. Lynn flinched away from the medical staff's touch, while simultaneously describing their emotional states with perfect accuracy. James performed physical tests at peak human capacity, but showed no emotional response to photos of his family. Sophia disassembled and improved a medical scanner in minutes, while explaining that the device's operational frequencies felt sad. They're integrating with the technology in ways we didn't anticipate, Elijah admitted to Helena as they reviewed the comprehensive findings. The neural interface is blurring the line between human and machine cognition. Can you reverse it? Helena asked. I don't know yet. We need more data. A security alert interrupted them. Helena checked her tablet and frowned. We have another problem. 3 separate espionage attempts detected at our perimeter in the last hour. Earth's governments are getting desperate for Prometheus technology. If they think they can just replicate the hardware, they're missing the point, Elijah said. The system requires specific neurological profiles and extensive calibration. Helena's communication device chimed with a priority message. Long-range sensors have detected movement from the Vordaxian fleet. They're adjusting course, accelerating toward Earth. She scrolled through the data. New weapons signatures detected. They're adapting. In the medical ward, Maya suddenly sat upright, eyes wide. They're coming, she announced, though no one had informed the pilots about the sensor readings. They're changing their approach based on what they learned from the scout ships. Dr. Kimura looked alarmed. How could you know that? Elijah's expression was grim. The neural link must be affecting their perception in ways we don't understand. They're developing abilities we didn't program. Is that good or bad? Helena asked. Both, Elijah replied. They're becoming more effective pilots, but at what cost to their humanity? Maya stepped into the corridor, the other 4 pilots emerging simultaneously from their separate rooms, as if responding to an unheard signal. They moved with eerie synchronization. We need to prepare, Maya said, speaking for the group. They'll be ready for our previous tactics. You need rest, Dr. Kimura insisted. Your neural patterns are severely stressed. Sophia smiled faintly. Our brains aren't stressed, Doctor. They're evolving. Lynn, normally so withdrawn, added with unusual clarity. The Vordaxians calculate. We imagine. That's the difference they can't overcome. Dr. Wright adjusted the neural calibration equipment as Maya sat motionless in the synchronization chair. 3 weeks of intensive testing had yielded concerning results, but no solutions to the pilot's accelerating neural changes. Standard protocols aren't working, Elijah muttered, reviewing the latest scans. Their baseline patterns keep shifting faster than we can adjust the interface. Maya opened her eyes. That's because you're still treating the system as technology to be controlled rather than a partnership to be developed. Admiral Chen, observing from the monitoring station, leaned forward. The pilots had begun speaking this way recently, philosophical statements that somehow contained practical insights. What do you mean, Santos? Helena asked. The Prometheus system doesn't just amplify our thinking, Maya explained. It responds to it. We're changing each other. In the adjacent calibration bay, Sophia unexpectedly gasped, her neural readings spiking dramatically. The technicians rushed to adjust her settings. What happened? Elijah demanded. I'm not sure, the lead technician replied. Candidate Reyes's patterns suddenly intensified when Candidate Santos described her understanding of the system. Maya turned towards Sophia's bay, though there was no line of sight between them. You felt that too. Sophia's voice came through the comm system. Yes, like an echo, but stronger. On a hunch, Maya closed her eyes and deliberately focused on a childhood memory. Her grandmother teaching her to sail on Lake Michigan, the specific sensation of wind and water. Sophia's neural readings immediately shifted, mirroring Maya's patterns. I can see the lake, she whispered. The waves are small, and the boat is yellow. with a red stripe. The monitoring equipment began registering increased synchronization across all 5 pilots, despite them being in separate rooms. James's voice joined the conversation. It happens when you focus on emotions, not just information. Elijah and Helena exchanged concerned looks. Try another, Tarek suggested from his calibration bay. Maya concentrated on her feelings about her first space flight, the mixture of terror and exhilaration, the profound shift in perspectives, seeing Earth from orbit. All 5 neural patterns suddenly aligned in perfect synchrony, their readings exceeding all previous metrics. "This is unprecedented," Elijah whispered, studying the data. "They're establishing a group consciousness through emotional connection." "Not just emotions," Lynn's soft voice corrected. "What makes us human? Our connections to each other and our experiences." Helena approached Maya's calibration chair. "What are you proposing?" "A test," Maya replied. "Let us synchronize with the Prometheus units while deliberately engaging our emotional centers instead of suppressing them, as the protocols currently require." Elijah shook his head. Every combat system ever designed works by minimizing emotional input. Feelings create unpredictability, decrease precision. "Exactly," James interrupted. "Unpredictability is our advantage. The Vordaxians can't calculate what we'll do if we ourselves don't know until we feel it." After intense debate, Elijah reluctantly authorized the experimental approach. The 5 pilots were transferred to the full synchronization chamber, where their Prometheus units waited in suspension. "Neural interface initializing," a technician announced as the pilots were connected to their units. Suppression protocols disengaged at candidates' request. The monitoring screens showed chaotic patterns at first, emotional centers flaring with activity that would normally be dampened. "This won't work," one of the senior engineers muttered. "Combat systems require emotional control." Then something remarkable happened. The chaotic patterns began organizing themselves into complex, beautiful symmetries, unlike anything the system had recorded before. The 5 individual consciousness patterns remained distinct but interwoven, supporting rather than competing with each other. Synchronization levels at 200% of previous maximum, the lead technician reported, voice trembling with disbelief. In the chamber, the 5 Prometheus units began to glow with energy, responding to their pilots' enhanced neural patterns. "What are you experiencing?" Helena asked through the communication system. 5 voices answered in perfect unison, then separated into distinct but harmonious tones. "We are individual, yet connected. Stronger together, yet still ourselves. The human equation." Elijah stared at the readings in wonder. The system doesn't just use their brains as processing power, he realized. It amplifies what makes them human. The Vordaxian armada darkened Earth's skies, 300 warships arranged in geometric perfection against the blue backdrop of humanity's home. From the orbital command center, Admiral Chen watched tactical displays tracking the enemy formation as it settled into attack position. "Their pattern is different from standard Vordaxian doctrine," the tactical officer noted. "They've adapted based on the scout engagement." Helena studied the display grimly. Deploy defensive screens and prepare conventional forces for support roles. She opened a secure channel to the 15 Prometheus units, now stationed in Earth's upper atmosphere. Status report. "All units operational," Maya responded, her voice carrying unusual harmonic undertones. "But they've brought something new, Admiral. We can sense dampening fields designed to disrupt our neural patterns." The Vordaxian flagship broadcasted its message across all frequencies, humans, Your resistance has been analyzed and countered. Surrender now to preserve 14% of your population. Without waiting for Earth's response, the Vordaxian Armada launched its first assault. Energy weapons tore through orbital defense satellites, while specialized fields began interfering with Earth's communication networks. The 15 Prometheus units moved to engage, but immediately encountered the countermeasures Maya had sensed. Dampening waves disrupted their neural connections, reducing their effectiveness to merely advanced combat units rather than the transcendent force they had become. They're neutralizing our advantage, Tariq reported as his unit barely evaded a concentrated energy blast. Their adaptation is impressive. In the command center, Helena watched with growing dread as the Prometheus pilots struggled against overwhelming numbers and technological countermeasures. The tactical displays showed Earth's conventional forces holding in reserve, waiting for an opening that might never come. "We need to change approach," Lynn suggested, her unit taking damage from a coordinated Vordaxian strike. "Their countermeasures are designed for how we fought before." Through the neural link, Maya suddenly accessed memories of her life before Prometheus, dancing in her university years, the intuitive movements of her body flowing with music rather than following rigid patterns. "Stop fighting like machines," she broadcast to the other pilots. They've countered that approach. James understood first. His Prometheus unit suddenly broke from standard evasive patterns, instead moving in flowing curves reminiscent of classical ballet. The Vordaxian targeting systems, calibrated for predictive algorithms, missed completely. "They're tracking patterns, not presence," James explained through the link. "Dance, don't fly." The Prometheus units abruptly shifted strategy. Sophia's unit began moving in sequences based on traditional Spanish flamenco, sharp and passionate. Lynn's movements echoed ancient Chinese water sleeve dances, flowing and circular. Tariq incorporated mathematical beauty from Islamic geometric art into his flight patterns. James drew from African tribal celebration dances with powerful rhythmic movements. The Vordaxian commanders, watching from their flagship, observed in confusion as the human craft abandoned all recognized combat formations. "What strategy is this?" demanded Fleet Commander Zex. Their movements follow no tactical doctrine. On the tactical display, Maya's unit led several Vordaxian pursuers through a complex sequence based on Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake, each turn and spin perfectly timed to draw the enemies into position for Earth's conventional forces to strike. "Now," Helena ordered, and Earth's reserve fleet launched their assault, hitting the Vordaxian formation exactly where the Prometheus pilots had systematically created vulnerabilities. The linked human consciousness generated strategies appearing chaotic to observers, but perfectly coordinated among themselves. What looked like artistic expression contained precise tactical intention. Each seemingly random movement calculated to exploit specific weaknesses in Vordaxian formations. "They're using cultural references as tactical frameworks," Elijah realized, watching from the Prometheus facility. Ballet, music, art, patterns the Vordaxians have never studied because they considered them irrelevant to warfare. In space, the battle transformed into a deadly performance art. The Prometheus pilots moved their units with the precision of dancers and the passion of artists, each maneuver both beautiful and lethal. Earth's conventional forces followed their lead, striking precisely where the pilots created openings. Fleet Commander Zex watched in growing horror as his perfect formation crumbled against what appeared to be madness, but functioned as brilliant strategy. "How do we counter this?" his tactical officer asked desperately. Zex had no answer. How could one calculate a response to imagination? The Vordaxian retreat was not the chaotic flight of a broken force, but the precise withdrawal of a species that prided itself on strategic calculation. As the bulk of their armada disappeared into hyperspace, the Supreme Commander's personal flagship remained in Earth orbit, transmitting a single, unexpected message. We request diplomatic engagement. 3 days later, Admiral Chen led the 5 original Prometheus pilots toward the neutral negotiation station, positioned between Earth and lunar orbit. The small diplomatic shuttle carried no weapons, but the 5 pilots, now recognizable heroes across Earth, were humanity's most effective defense. They could still be planning something, Tarek noted, his enhanced perception scanning the approaching station. No, Lin replied with quiet certainty. Their emotional signatures indicate genuine recalibration of perspective. The station's docking procedure completed with mechanical precision. Helena studied her companions as they prepared to meet the Vordaxian leadership. The pilots had changed, their movements synchronized without conscious effort, their communication often happening without words. Yet something fundamentally human remained, perhaps even more pronounced than before. The Vordaxian Supreme Commander waited in the central chamber, his armoured exoskeleton now bearing battle damage that had not been repaired, a significant cultural statement for a species that valued perfection. 6 high-ranking officers accompanied him, their postures communicating what the humans recognized as respectful caution. Admiral Chen, the Supreme Commander, began, his translator conveying his chittering speech into smooth English. We acknowledge the cessation of hostilities between our civilizations. Helena stepped forward. We welcome this opportunity for understanding rather than conflict. The Supreme Commander's sensory ridges flexed in a gesture Maya somehow recognized as contemplative. We analyzed your species based on technological advancement metrics, he admitted. Our error was fundamental and unprecedented. His gaze shifted to the 5 pilots. You are the operators of the combat units that defied our tactical projections. Maya nodded. We are. Explain this capability, the commander requested. Our analysis indicates your technology should not be capable of such performance. Your analysis measured the wrong variables, Sophie replied. You evaluated our machines, not our minds. Tarek stepped forward. Vordaxian tactical systems are built on calculation, predicting outcomes based on known variables. But human cognition incorporates elements you classified as irrelevant to warfare: intuition, creativity, emotional interpretation. Impossible, one of the Vordaxian officers objected. Combat effectiveness requires suppression of emotional factors. James smiled slightly. That's what we thought too. The Supreme Commander studied them with new intensity. You intentionally incorporate unpredictability into your combat doctrine. Not exactly. Lin explained, her usual reticence gone. We embrace the fullness of human experience. Our emotions don't make us weaker fighters. They make us stronger, more adaptive ones. Understanding seemed to dawn in the commander's alien features. The ancient texts speak of species who fought this way, before the galaxy embraced logical progression. We dismissed these accounts as mythology. Maya sensed the profound shift occurring in the Vordaxian perspective. Your technological superiority is real, she acknowledged, but technology alone isn't everything. The resulting agreement established Earth as an independent power in the galactic community. The Vordaxians would share certain technologies in exchange for studying, never replicating, the Prometheus system's unique melding of human consciousness and machine capability. As the human delegation returned to Earth, Dr. Wright shared his latest discovery with them. The neural patterns you've developed continue evolving based on your experiences, he explained. The potential seems limitless. From the shuttle viewport, Maya gazed at the stars with new perspective. Earth's place among them was no longer threatened but assured, not through superior firepower or advanced technology, but through the unique qualities of the human mind. They thought our emotions were our weakness, she told her teammates as they approached their homeworld, gleaming blue against the darkness of space. They never realized that feeling deeply is what makes us fight fiercely for what matters. The Prometheus pilots, still connected even without the interface, shared a moment of perfect understanding as their world grew larger in the viewport. They had saved humanity not by becoming more like machines, but by embracing what made them human. And the galaxy would never be the same.